On a cold autumn evening, when the last of the leaves clung to skeletal branches, something began stirring in the quiet town of Halliford. The storm outside rattled windows, but inside room 6 of St. Augustine's orphanage, a little boy named Daniel sat cross-legged on his bed, whispering to someone who wasn't there. The other children had long since fallen asleep. The soft sound of rain against the old building was the only thing filling the air, until Daniel's voice cut through the silence again. It wasn't the voice of a child. It was deeper, slower, like words dragged across gravel. Mrs. Whitmore, the night caretaker, paused outside his door. She had been working at the orphanage for 30 years. She knew Daniel was a quiet boy, shy, withdrawn, but never cruel. Now, hearing those guttural murmurs, her hand froze on the doorknob. She knocked softly. "Daniel, who are you talking to?" The murmurs stopped instantly. The silence on the other side pressed in, heavy and suffocating. Slowly she opened the door. Daniel was sitting perfectly still in the center of the bed. His pale face was turned toward the far corner of the room, the darkest one, where the moonlight didn't reach. "There's someone in here," he whispered, though his lips didn't move the way whispers normally do. "He says you shouldn't be here." Mrs. Whitmore swallowed the rising lump in her throat. "There's no one there, Daniel. You're just having a bad dream." Daniel's head turned toward her in a slow, unnatural rotation, his eyes wide, pupils so dilated they almost swallowed the irises. "He's not a dream." The next morning the other children avoided Daniel. They claimed he had been walking the halls in the middle of the night, barefoot, humming a strange, tuneless melody. Some said his eyes glowed in the dark. By noon, the staff noticed his drawings, page after page filled with jagged, violent shapes, a towering figure with twisted limbs and a mouth that stretched too far. Black crayon pressed so hard into the paper it tore. When asked what it was, Daniel answered in that same low voice, "My friend, he came from the wall." As the days passed, strange things began happening around room 6. Toys slid across the floor when no one touched them. Doors slammed hard enough to crack the frame. At night, the sound of small, quick footsteps could be heard in the hallways, followed by the scrape of fingernails on wood. The headmistress ordered the room cleansed, thinking it was just superstition infecting the minds of the children. A priest was called, but as soon as Father Matthews stepped through the doorway, Daniel smiled a stretched, unnatural smile. "You can't make him leave." The boy's voice echoed, distorted, as if two people spoke at once. The priest dropped his Bible. It landed open, pages fluttering violently though no wind touched them. He left without finishing the blessing. By the end of the week, Daniel stopped responding to his name entirely. He began speaking in a language no one recognized, words that scraped against the air like broken glass. His small hands left deep gouges in the wooden bed frame, though no one ever saw him move. One night, Mrs. Whitmore woke to the sound of crying. She followed it down the dark hall, only to realize it was coming from the ceiling above her. She climbed the narrow stairs to the attic and froze. There, crouched in the corner, was Daniel, his face pale and eyes too wide, whispering into the shadows. "Do you want to meet him?" he asked without looking up. "He wants to meet you." The darkness in the far corner shifted, stretching, rising higher than any man could stand. Something stepped forward, its outline too jagged to be human, its face a void where eyes should be. The air grew heavy, the temperature plummeted. Mrs. Whitmore stumbled back, but Daniel moved faster, crawling toward her in an animal-like way, his hands bent wrong. He was laughing now, not a child's laugh, but a guttural roar that filled the attic. The next morning, room 6 was empty. Daniel was gone. No one at St. Augustine's spoke about that night again, but sometimes, when the storm clouds gather and the rain rattles against the windows, the children claim they can hear soft humming in the halls. And if you listen closely enough, you might hear a small voice whispering from the shadows. "Do you want to meet him?"